Hello, my name is Caroline Goulard. I created 2 companies in the field of data visualization. I've been working for more than 10 years to build bridges between humans and data, and I'm very happy to be with you for a new episode of The Bridge, the media by Artefact, that makes data and artificial intelligence understandable for everyone. Today I'm with Edouard de Mézerac. Edouard, hello.
Hello.
Could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Very happy to be with you today. My name is Edouard de Mézerac. I joined Artefact in 2018. I was living in China at the time, in Shanghai. And I was feeling already this beginning of data and AI. I remember my parents asked me, why join a new company from scratch? Like, why take that risk? And I remember I had the cover of The Economist. That was April 2018. The title was AI Will Disrupt Everything. That was 2018. And I had the feeling something was happening there. So joining a company only specialized in this and launching this part of activity in China was quite tempting. So I joined Artefact 2018. I lived in Shanghai and grew the business there for until 2022, then spent a bit of time in Singapore, so total 8 years in Asia. And I just moved back to Paris after 8 years in Asia to take more of a global role at Artefact, now that the teams have grown in the rest of Asia. So very excited to be back in Paris, back in France.
So today we're going to talk about the luxury sector and data. What's your personal history with this sector?
So indeed, and today what I do for Artefact is I lead all our industry practices. Up to now, Artefact was very organized by country, and we felt we wanted to have consistency and real thought leadership by industry practices. So we have financial services, industrials, etc., and obviously luxury and beauty. And I spend a bit more time in that industry. And on luxury and beauty, so we've been working, I think, with almost all luxury groups in the last 8 years. We've been working for luxury groups in China, in the US, in Europe, so we have a bit of a holistic view on this. Now, going back to your question on what's happening on luxury, so it's a constant up and down, but what is interesting is people always tend to overreact. So if we had this podcast and interview 3 weeks ago, the atmosphere was completely gloomy. What happened last week is Groupe Richemont published results of their last quarter of 2024, announcing a top line increase by 10%. So their revenue in Q4 grew 10% year on year compared to the previous year, which caught everybody by surprise. Obviously, the stock market went crazy. All values of all luxury groups went up. So overreaction, but so there's a bit of a constant overreaction and up and down. What are the facts? It is true that 2024 has been tough. And if we look at China specifically, China was tough. So luxury market in China was down by 20% in 2024. So having a market go down, so the total market went down by 20%, which is drastic. Now, if you unpeel a bit the onion, the reality is always more contrasted, and China is always complicated. The reality of China, yes, domestic market of luxury has decreased by 20%. When you look at the Chinese buyers as a whole, so Chinese luxury buyers, that market has decreased only 7 or 8%. Why? The share of luxury purchases outside of China, outside of domestic market, has grown. And so very concretely, Japan. The currency of Japan weakened compared to the RMB in China. So suddenly there was a gap of 30%. And so all luxury items in Japan were on paper 30% cheaper compared to China. So all luxury brands saw amazing numbers in Japan during the time, mostly related to Chinese consumers just traveling around. So China, it's always a bit of a complicated onion to look at. But the reality is the market is difficult. The market is difficult. And for me, what tells the story of what's happened in China is the index of consumer confidence. It tells the entire story. Just look it up online. It's very easy. What happened, if you look at since, let's say, 2019, index between 2019 up to March 2022, consumer confidence index was around 110, 120. March 2022, that was in the middle of the confinement in Shanghai, which I went through, the consumer confidence index dropped to 80. And since then, it's been around 80 and 85, and even last summer it was at 84-ish. So it's never went back up. So what is the tough part of China is this consumer confidence that is low, and that is impacting the entire business, luxury, obviously, as well as the others. So that's China. The US is a huge market for luxury. It's a huge market for luxury, and the trends right now are very positive. So expectations is that the luxury market in the US, that's consensus, will grow at least 5% year on year in the coming years. It could get even boosted further than this 5%. So indeed, the China will not be the growth engine anymore of luxury brands, but the US may become and may take a bigger share there. So the luxury market is a very global market with global consumers, but with contrasted stories across geos.
When it comes to data now, so you have been working with those luxury companies. How would you describe their maturity in terms of data?
So it's a good question, and indeed, when you step back, luxury is a very good candidate for using data in a smart way. Why is that? Is most luxury brands are direct to consumer. So if you look at most luxury brands, you look at their revenue, 80% or 70% or 90%, depending on their categories, they know exactly who the final consumer is. So meaning as a luxury brand, they have this ability to understand who the consumer is, anticipate preferences, anticipate what they want to buy, better understand them, better serve them, etc., because there is this link. That's not the case in many other industries. CPG, it's like they have barely any consumer data. They don't see anything. It's a shot in the dark. So luxury, they have this visibility on consumers. The other element related to data and in broader terms, AI is, and I'll come to it later, is the field of applications of data and AI is huge for luxury business. But I'll come back to that. To your question specifically on what are the differences? We've done recently a study just using public information data, LinkedIn data. So data talents on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is interesting because it's open source, completely public information. So what I will say, anybody who has time, understanding of data could do it. So it's public information. What we've done is we've analyzed for all luxury groups, what are all the types, all the data talent types, how many data talents they have, what is the breakdown of these data talents, and looking this across all luxury groups, from the small ones to the big brands. So a few learnings. Learning number one, all luxury brands have staffed up their data talents. All of them will have tens, hundreds, and some thousands of data talents. Second, there's big variances. So one way of looking at the variances is to make a simple ratio of how many data talents they have compared to total employees. And here the proxy is total employees from headquarters, so more white-collar jobs, i.e. people who have LinkedIn profiles. So data talents divided by total LinkedIn profiles of that company. Here, when we make this ratio, we'll see big differences. So we see a leading pack. LVMH is clearly in the leading pack. Groupe Richemont is also in a leading pack. Numbers here are, they will have a ratio of between 10 and 20 per thousand. So between 1 and 2% of their data talents, white collars, are data talents. Between 1 and 2% of their total staff, total white collars, are data talents. Then there's a mixed bag of companies that are lagging. I'll be honest, the Gucci, the Chanel, the Hermes, etc. When just look at the number of data talents compared to total number of jobs, they will be more than half a point, so 0.5%, 80 basis points to 1%, so significantly under the leading groups. And to be clear, when we call data talents, this will be head of data, head of AI, data product owner, data scientist, data engineers, data analyst, etc., etc. It's all the groups of data talents. What this means is the big difference is when did the journey start for these companies? Some luxury groups said there's something happening there, we need to invest and we need to lead. And the agenda was taken quite high in the organization. So CEO level, N-1 to CEO level, kind of pushing it. Some other companies saying, let's just leave it organic and let's see what happens. And there's little initiatives right, left, and center, but nothing consistent, nothing driven. So that's one takeaway on differences across groups. The second big takeaway on the differences is what is the mix of profiles. So when you look at data, there's like 3 types of activities. People thinking what to do with data, what to do with AI, kind of strategists. Then there's builders, people who deliver use cases, who deliver applications using data and AI. And then people working on the enablers. So making sure data is well managed. So data governance, making sure data is on the right platforms, making sure the platform choices are consistent and have harmony across the group. These are the data enablers. When you look at the split, it's quite different across companies as well. Most companies starting their journey will tend to underinvest on enablers, overinvest on use cases just to test stuff, learn stuff. This creates either a mess, which happens a lot, either like small good use cases that have impact but never scale. And in a way, it's a mandatory step to start with. More mature companies will have a balance between use cases and enablers. So typically what we see is having at least 30% of the talents working on enablers. So data governance profiles, data platform profiles, CTOs, and etc., versus people working on use cases, product owners, ML engineers, AI, data scientists, etc. At least 30% of the total pool on enablers is required. Some companies have barely 10% of their talents there. So that's one big takeaway here. If we go a bit deeper into what we're seeing on this study using LinkedIn data, there's another fact, which is some companies feel they invest on data governance because they have many master data managers, MDMs. But that's not data governance. That's just maintaining and making sure the basics are there as some referentials. But it's not embedding the processes of seeing data as an asset with the business. So data stewards, data governance officers very often are missing. So that's a bit of the forgotten child when it comes to data governance within these big luxury groups. And a final point, and we can talk about this for hours. So a final point on the study is product owners. So there's always a risk when people work on data and AI is to have a bit of a tech push, meaning great people, smart people having ideas from a tech angle versus responding to the business needs on how to solve a real problem with clients or real problem with operations with a business pull, a business angle. And the people making that bridge are product owners. When you look at who actually has product owners across luxury groups, it's a mixed bag. Some will have, at best, 2 or 3 product owners, that's it. And some have staffed up proper teams of product owners by division, by brand, by category, who understand the business, who are able to then work with more centralized teams that bring data science, ML engineers, AI engineers to solve the problem. So these product owners are really the key link. And it's hard to find, it's hard to grow, it's hard to retain. But it's a critical role to make it work.
So this is about the talents. Now let's look at the use cases. Yeah. What are the use cases that have been implemented a bit everywhere, like the basics of the sector? And what are the other use cases that only the most mature group have developed?
Yeah. So when it comes to use cases, and before going into the use case, my view on this is specifically for luxury, but in general, data and AI is just enablers for the business. That's it. Luxury groups will never be tech companies. Data and AI should be at the service of the business at real problems for the customers. Now, when we look at use cases in luxury, for me, there's three families of use cases. And the first type being, I think, will have at least half of the value generated. First type is around the clients. How to better serve clients, consumers, final consumers. I'll give you a very simple example. Luxury groups now tend to be multi-channel. Have an app, have a website, have retail stores, have services, so digital services, either AI applications to better picture and analyze their needs, etc. Very often, all these touch points are not interconnected. So step one is just having this 360 understanding, omni-channel understanding of the consumer. Many luxury groups still think, they have CRM managing customer, basically legacy CRM data through a CRM angle. They have retail stores managing their customers going into the store, and they have digital channels observing how people behave on the app and use these digital assets, but nothing is interconnected. So step one is connecting things together. And we've done a use case recently to just reconcile these elements and generate some insights. And what we were able to show, it was quite simple, is obviously digital has become more important since COVID, but we start seeing this in purchasing behavior. So when people buy offline a product, what we realized, and it was the case in China and the case in the US, half of the customers looked at the product before online. So either on the app, either on the website, etc. And that's huge. And so obviously, there's many people looking on the app, many people looking on the websites to understand what they want and discover the products, but only a fraction of them will convert. So having intelligence to understand how the consumers are arriving to the stores, and then being smarter on, well, maybe we have people who spend a lot of time looking at our products and we haven't done anything and haven't given any reason for them to come to a store afterwards. It doesn't work. So again, on this client priority, having a 360 understanding of the consumer, that's step one. Once this is done, then many things can be done. Other examples of use cases. Very simple, maximizing second purchase and helping consumers better understand, discover other categories. In many luxury groups, consumers will tend to buy the entry category. So either it's a small item, either it's a tie, either like one single category. Although all these luxury groups are multi-categories. So bringing these consumers into other categories and having them discover other categories requires a better understanding of who they are, what could be their preferences, like just basic information, so that we can make them discover other parts of the business, and what are the other options. And so here, helping consumers discover the brand by pushing personalized content, by pushing the right proactive message at the right time when they are interested to grow into the category is another thing. The last piece on customers, and for me it's the next big battle, is personalization. Today, luxury groups have the promise to have a one-to-one connection with consumers. but it's just not true. It's a one-to-many. If you connect on a luxury app, if I connect on a luxury app at the same time, we'll see exactly the same thing. But where our needs, preferences, exactly are drastically different. And the paradox is that when we spend time online, 80% of the time we spend online, we see personalized stuff. Your Instagram, your YouTube, your WeChat, etc., have highly personalized experiences. So everything is customized to what I want. You go on whatever app of a luxury brand, what you see is just everybody sees the same thing. So there's a big gap being created. So having more personalization on the digital experiences is a top priority for some brands, and there's a big lag already on what to be done there. Maybe the final thing on a client is VICs. Obviously, luxury is basically a pyramid with a few high-value clients not contributing to a disproportionate amount of their revenue. Using data and using personalization to best serve these VICs, to anticipate what they want, to anticipate what they need, to make sure all the knowledge that they have shared with their customer relationship manager or client advisors is properly structured and safe is important. So, example, having potentially tomorrow personalized products for these VICs, personalized experiences for these VICs, and knowing when is the right time to reach out to these VICs. Data can help. And here it's data to help humans talking to VICs, not just data and AI through bots to talk and interact with these VICs. So that's first area of battle on use cases. Second area of battle is products. So luxury groups, they sell physical items. When we sell physical items, we need to manufacture these items, we need to distribute these items, and this is where data and AI comes in. To be able to have the right product in the right store, in the right quantity, at the right time, you need to have a backbone of data, have a backbone of tech, and potentially AI on top of it to make sure this happens. So example, predicting how many products are needed in that color in a given country, how many products are needed in that given store, given demand, is a big part of families of use cases and can be done. Same thing on assortment. How to be smarter on which items should be present in which store. Many luxury groups have decentralized this decision. So it's the store manager making the calls on what they want to have, how many they want to have. Very often this is based on experience. So I'm not saying it's to replace that. I'm saying it's to give smarter insights to these people so that when they make decisions on this is what I want to order in my store, it can be more informed. On product side, I want to talk about the environment. So that's one space that is still untapped. In consumer preferences on how they would choose luxury brands, the sustainability dimension is becoming more important. So traceability, sustainability is becoming more important. That's true in luxury jewels and watches. Where having end-to-end traceability of materials, of diamonds, etc., is becoming important. Having just an estimate of the carbon footprint. If you buy luxury shoes in a store tomorrow and you ask what is the carbon footprint of these shoes, answer is they have no idea. They have no idea, and there's no hesitation to fly stuff by plane if needed. So. Sustainability will start having a visibility on what is happening and having visibility on the chain and having visibility on the impact. And that is step one. Second layer is starting to optimize. Optimize to avoid carbon high spenders in travel, so avoiding the plane as much as possible. Optimizing the flows, so avoiding having gaps and the stuff being drove from one store to the other. That will be part of the use cases that can be done using better predictions. And then at the end, if we look at diamonds and jewels, indeed, that's another space where data tech it can be used as an enabler to have this end-to-end traceability. Because if you buy a piece of jewelry, they will have dozens of suppliers, dozens of components, being just able to reconcile the dots across the entire chain and having visibility end-to-end works. An example of this, some AI applications, is you bring your item that you bought in a luxury brand back into the store. People will take a picture and automatically will analyze if it's a fake or a real product. Taking a picture, finding automatically the reference number in the catalog, so that immediately you say, oh yeah, this is what happened, and potentially say, oh, there's a quality issue on the chain that may happen. Last topic on the product side is quality. So luxury is a promise of quality, of high quality products. And this is where also data and AI is important, because it's about following the products once they are in the hands of the consumer and being able to have this back loop when needed. So example, watches. Watches, people are ready to pay a high price for a watch if the quality is perfect. And for sure, in some cases, there could be warranties that are for a long time, and being able to understand what is the risk of, on this batch, that we may have some quality issues because of whatever component, and anticipates that we should proactively call these clients because we know that component broke in other items, and to proactively reach out saying, you should come back to the store because we know we have some issues there. Suddenly the discussion changes. So that's the product side. Last topic, last area is channels. So here, there's a bit of a paradox. With COVID, through COVID, the e-com channel exploded and caught unguarded many luxury brands, with e-com penetration reaching 10, 15, 20, 25% of their revenue. Obviously very different by market, but like in some cases just doubling. That happened very fast. In some cases, without the right foundations. So how the website is operated, what kind of visibility they have, what kind of tracking they have, how to make sure it works perfectly. So there's a very first simple family of use cases is making sure any e-com channel works perfectly. Because to build an e-com channel, you have to set up a website, set up all operations, set up stuff that is completely new. It's not like Amazon. Luxury groups are like at its core retailers fundamentally. This new channel required new tech skills. So, and I've seen a bit of a gap in some cases with apps not working properly, with add to basket, add to cart not working properly, with payment methods failing, and many luxury groups are struggling with that. And sometimes comments of consumers online are horrendous, like, I was so pissed I could never make this payment. The reason behind is it went so fast, the tech capabilities and analytic capabilities did not grow at the right pace there. So one, having the right monitoring, having the right proactive monitoring of this e-com channel is a key thing. On channels, being able to understand the consumers end to end. So if you ask the question to a brand, tell me how many consumers you have both going online, going to your app, going to your e-com website on top of your just website, going to your e-com transaction website and coming to the store. Just having this understanding of the touch points. Many brands don't even see that. And when you go deeper on this, bringing customers to the store tends to increase the lifetime value of customers. But to bring the customers to the store, we need to know who to bring to the store. And indeed, a luxury experience will be only fulfilled when you start talking to someone who can explain about the product, explain about the brand, explain about what is behind. And here, it's there's one big family of use cases is maximizing the number of people you can actually physically bring to stores. So that's first type of use case around channels. Second type of use case around channels is sales advisors. So helping sales advisors getting much better at serving the customer. I'll tell you, that's public information. It was shared by Louis Vuitton at Tech for Retail. They were explaining that in average, in every store, in every Louis Vuitton store, they receive 15 new references a week. So that's 15 new items a week on which a sales advisor, client advisor, need to be able to talk about. They need to be able to sell it. They need to be able to explain how does it match other items, what is different, what is new, the new collection, etc. And that's a lot of knowledge to absorb every single week. So helping sales advisor automatically knowing the history of the product, the components, how to sell it, where does it match. This can be done using GenAI. They can be done using embedded in the app of clienteling, and that makes a big difference. Other type of use case on channel is offering services through online connecting points. Other example from Vuitton in the US in this case. Proposing to clients through their app to have an appointment online to assess a product they have bought that may require some fixes. So you bought a bag, and there's one element of the bag that fell off after 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and you want to have an assessment of, okay, what should I do to fix it? Before going to the store and before schedule anything, you can have an online appointment with someone who knows the products, so really someone from the atelier or someone who knows how to fix stuff, through your app. And so it's quite simple. You ask for an appointment. The brand will take control of the app and take control of the camera, so you can film the items live. The people on the other side will say, okay, well, this is what is happening. This is what you should do, and you send this to this point, and then we'll be able to fix it in that amount of time. This would be the cost, etc., etc. So having a quality service with a person, with a human, but through a digital asset will changes the dynamic. The last area on the channels and the retail part is really augmenting sales advisors end to end. So I'll give you a very tangible example. Many luxury brands have said, oh yes, it's so important to have sales advisors being trained up, having information, knowing who the customers are. So many brands have set up different apps. So sales advisors, beauty advisors, here you go, you have this training app. Sales advisors, beauty advisor, here you go, you have this product catalog app. And by the way, you have this clienteling app so that you know who your customers are, so you can proactively reach out to. And by the way, we also gave you this product management app because to know which item to order. And suddenly you have sales advisor, beauty advisors having in front of them, oh, I have 4 apps. How many apps do we use on our phone? Ourselves. We use, I don't know, max 6 apps. So in our job, if we have on simple tasks, stuff that is just scattered, makes 0 sense. But that's related to the silos of the organization, related to speed. It's easier to just launch a new app versus embed it in one. So our vision on this is try to concentrate everything in one app. China is a good example of this because you can do this through a mini program. So we helped the luxury brand in China build within the mini program. So it's like an app in the WeChat ecosystem, but with all these features embedded, training, customer, so clienteling, like who to reach out to proactively, product information, task management. So having automatically the right tasks being pushed in the app on saying, in that point of time, it's low in traffic. These are all the stuff that needs to happen in the back of the store at that point. Suddenly you can start being much smarter to help sales advisor, client advisors in the store. Here, the space is huge. The space is huge, and the impact of this will be by better serving customers in a physical store, the long-term value again will increase for these customers. So that's on this helping customers and having retailers having a proper end-to-end experience on this. The last angle on this client advisor, sales advisor, is to ask, and that applies to retail as a whole, what is the percentage of time they spend facing customers, talking to customers, versus handling operational tasks? And every amount of time that we can save on operational tasks to put it more in front of customers helps. And some people say, well, yeah, but traffic is low in 3 days out of 5 in a week. Okay, but then this is where clienteling comes in. We've been helping a brand to help client advisors know who to reach out to proactively. So based on the history of these customers, based on what they said last time, to automatically select, these are the high-value customers that you manage, that you should proactively reach out to. Even pushing it further, having GenAI help write standard messages and personalized messages that are customized to the need of that client. And that's all the more important because if you flip it around completely, if you don't do that, there's a risk on the business. So I'll tell you a story. In China, we're able to measure in the beauty category that when beauty advisors change to another competitor, and that turnover of beauty advisors is between 15 and 25%, depending on the brands, depending on the period. It's lower right now, but it has been up to 30% in some times, meaning you lose almost a third of your beauty advisors every year. We are able to measure that the clients these beauty advisors were managing through their clienteling app tended to also churn, because obviously you move to brand A to brand B, say you started selling through your own connections to brand B, to all customers the brand B that you now work for. And so having the luxury brand, making sure they are the one having the link with the consumer and not the sales advisor, beauty advisor, is a safety element for the business. And then making sure the turnover is low because the experience at the brand of these beauty advisors is good. So that's the third area of battle.
Okay, let's come back to GenAI, because it's a very interesting subject when it comes to luxury, because we have this image that luxury, creativity, human talents, how does this match with GenAI?
So, and here again, it's paradoxical and it surprised me. So we did a few strategic alignment sessions with executive committees of big brands. And I have one specific in mind, one of the top luxury groups, I will not name it. We had the entire COMEX, the entire management team. So obviously head of supply chain, CFO, CIO, etc., but also the head of collections, the head of creative, the head of marketing, the head of the businesses. And we worked with them to identify which are the areas, the playing field for AI and GenAI. And I'll be honest with you, one of the playing field was creativity, and to help the designers come up faster with new ideas, new designs, help the fashionists build the entire collection once the initial idea is set. And my expectation would have been that would have been an absolute no-go for GenAI. Surprisingly, not at all. Not at all. They were very cautious on the consumer side, saying, oh, personalization, we want to be careful, etc. On the creative side, say, well, we're already doing some stuff. Because in many cases, creative profiles haven't waited for an AI strategist from the group to say, oh, maybe we can do something. They've started using some tools. So using tools to do mood boarding much faster, doing concept visualization much faster, and even some simple ideas and brainstorming. We've done a use case with a perfume flavor making to help what we call the nose, the nez, better, faster come up with new recipes and new combinations. And by doing that, we basically mapped out all the past elements, all the past ingredients, and automatically coming up with new combinations that did not exist. So it's not to replace them, it's to make their job faster and easier. And they were the first one wanting to doing it. Another example, another twist. on GenAI, specifically in the area of creative, and I've heard this a few times. What is interesting for people is on this part is what will make other people scare. GenAI, we know, has a problem. It hallucinates. It comes up with answers that could be just plainly wrong. Hallucinations is what getting the attention of some of the creatives, some of the artistic directors, saying that space should be explored. Because this means some models can come up with combinations that were never figured out before. And I strongly encourage everyone to start playing with some image creative tools, because you can start visualizing stuff that wasn't possible. And I want to also set limits on this, because what is GenAI? And when you create an image, what is it? It's quite simple. It's just a probabilistic approach. And when you create an image, it creates similar pixel next to the image, mathematically based. So is this pure creative? Probably not. But it is, what is interesting is the fact of visualizing can create new kind of connections in our brains so that we can have very different ideas. So that space is actually quite interesting, and I think we're just at the beginning of it.
And is there also some use cases in the way to present product, to set up some scenes, to show products in different atmosphere that would have not been done before?
So definitely yes, and we're at the beginning of this. We're helping a beauty brand right now test many GenAI tools to create marketing content to present products. We're doing this obviously on non-human, so it will never be human models, but only display of the items within a space, within a background, within something that makes sense. And here, GenAI tools are, many of them are getting better and better and better by the month. So the hyper-realistic images are now, it's possible to have very, very good output on this. So right now, almost all luxury brands have tested and piloted. No one has scaled. One example is LVMH has awarded to a company called Fancy Tech. It's a Chinese company. And Fancy Tech, what they have is they have a technology to create automatically short videos or even long videos they only film the product in high resolution, and based on this, they create automatically videos that can be straightly used into Instagram or whatever other channel. And that's done automatically. So there's just filming of the product to have the pitches. Then you can use this filming to create 10,000 versions of the content. Still the very beginning, and the cost equation is still unclear, because very often it's still expensive to run this. So still a lot to be done in that space.
All these use cases, most of them could have been by other sectors. Do you see something that's very specific to the luxury industry, or maybe some use cases the luxury industry will never do because it's not in its ADN?
So for me, there's two areas that are specific for data and AI in luxury. One is the promise to consumers on how data will be used. And here I think each luxury brand should have a clear stance on what is their commitment to their consumers, on how far they can go. And here we need to listen to preferences of consumers, obviously the legal frameworks, but and each brand should take a stance on this. So I would call this consumer data governance. What are the rules? What are the do's and don'ts? Because when you are on Instagram or Facebook, you give everything. So there's no limitation. And I don't think that's the right standard. Luxury should set a standard on how far should personalization go, how far should predicting of consumer behavior go. And here they need to write something. Then they need to define something. So that's clearly something, because the promise, the value of a luxury brand is to have great experiences for the consumers in a respectful way, in a non-invasive way. And here, that has to be defined. The other area that is, I think, very different is luxury is by definition much more omnichannel compared to many other businesses. And here, the making bridges across all these channels finally will be more important. And omnichannel, luxury brand need to take the upper hand on reconciling the consumer journeys. When you spend media on platforms, when you spend media in whatever ecosystem, you have very limited visibility on what's going on. The luxury brand should take on their own the ability to reconcile the dots and measure what is working, not working, etc., with this complexity that is omnichannel.
So now let's look at the next steps. We haven't talked yet about the AI agents. Are there some use cases you see in this field?
So there are many use cases in that space, and that's just the beginning. So just what is AI agents? It's simple. It's designing agents, protocols, that will not only do tasks, but also be able to analyze elements and define a sequence of logical steps. So example, there are some pilots right now, agents to help you navigate on the web or to help you prepare a travel. So saying, I want to go to Lisbon. And the agent will then pop up, based on your preferences, automatically find hotels, automatically find flights, automatically find restaurants, and like pop up everything. And so each of the sequence of steps that you would have done your own through the search, that could be done through an agent. So that's an example. When you apply this to luxury, there are many spaces where it can work. And I'll explain why it's difficult. Customer service is the obvious one. So customer service, each luxury brand has dozens of people answering the phone on helping consumers to solve problems, answer questions on the product, availability, quality, etc. This can be augmented and done through smart agents with the right inputs. And the way to do it is we need to analyze what are the most common reasons for calls. And we've done this for a luxury brand. And the most common reason for calls was, in that case, availability of products. And so having done an agent that will listen to the conversation happening with the customer service and automatically find where the product is, and depending on where the call is coming from, which country, which area, having, these items can be done there, and potentially even pre-flagging them automatically to gain some time in the discussion with the customer service. That's one element. The other element is just running marketing campaigns end-to-end with agents. It's still a massively manual work. So having an agent able to design audiences, select the right content, measure live what is happening, course correct, changing the tags, changing the rules of implementation to maximize an ROI. The dream would be you give an ROI target to an agent, you give content assets, consumer pools, etc., just let it run and see what happens. Zero company have started doing that. And I think that will come. And suddenly this will also create more time for more analysis, more thinking, more framing by the people today doing these jobs.
Do you see all the next steps? What are the next fights?
So for me, next fights is pretty much the same fights as 5 years ago because luxury is very late. Next big fight is cracking data governance across the board. That's not the case. Still not the case today. Next fight is not having silos in data everywhere. Still, many company has massive silos. Next case is making sure it gets organized. Luxury can have a tendency not to be very structured and organized in the way to set up teams, in the way to run programs, etc., because they had the luxury to do it, or they didn't have to rationalize this a bit. So that's a next big battle, and I want to insist on this area of AI governance. More and more AI will be used in these companies, and luxury groups need again to take have visibility on which AI is used where, and then have a clear stance on what they want to do, how far they want to go. What is there? I've never seen a charter of these are my AI ethics rules for luxury for us as a company. Each of them should have that because customers will ask for them, and then boards will ask for it as well.
And to conclude and to maybe summarize, how do you see the evolution of the market? What's going next?
So, luxury is very resilient. It's very strong brands. And when you look at the business, the big brands are still performing like fairly reasonably well, including in China. So for me, it's a very resilient market with still a huge reservoir for growth. The second element, what I do believe is the bigger brands who have invested early, who have had a consistent brand strategy over time and not go through crazy hypes, these consistent brands will keep winning even more. As a consequence of that, I believe there will be further concentration. So there's a number of brands between 500 million and 1.5 billion euro sales that will get bought out. They have underinvested on all the enablers. They have some cases haven't cracked the distribution in all the big countries. Entering the US, entering China is tough. They will be much better off being part of big groups to leverage investments and the right strategies to get there versus barely surviving on their own. So I think there will be further concentration. So I'm fairly optimistic on what's coming next on the market. And then when it comes to data and AI in luxury, it's still very much the beginning of the journey. The groups leading ahead will go even further. We'll go further on agents, as we spoke about. We'll go further on AI in the creative space. We'll go further on AI for consumers to have finally this promise of personalized experiences. They will go further, and I think that the gap will even widen. And the laggers, I could be surprised. I could be surprised if companies suddenly making a radical shift and having a big booster because they got much smarter on how to run the business with data and AI, and always keeping consistency of brands. And I think this is the biggest protector of these brands. Chinese businesses, for me, the Chinese are the smartest in terms of running businesses, but they haven't cracked yet how to build luxury brands. Haven't cracked. So at some point they will crack it. But they will need to fight against this hype, volatility management, like making a coup. You cannot build a luxury brand to make as you make a coup, as you make an equity coup. It's not the same thing. So here, the big brands will have a cutting edge.
What is your recommendation if someone wants to know more about this luxury field? If someone wants to go deeper, is there a book, an article, video you could suggest?
So I'll take a more tech angle and data angle, because this is the field we're in. I would strongly recommend going backwards and forward. So forward, looking, not everything, but extracts of the big presentations of NVIDIA. Latest presentation of last week. I think not everything was interesting, but there's one thing interesting that he said. The CEO of NVIDIA was, CIOs will become HR of agents. So there's a few things here like this, and then understanding a bit what is happening is quite useful. So looking some of these keynotes, looking forward. And then looking backward, I believe a lot in literature and reading novels that were predicting stuff, that writers sometimes have this ability to read what is happening in the world with much thinner eyes. So one book I would recommend is it came out in 2018, 2017 by Ian McEwan. It's a British author known for he wrote Atonement. It was turned into a very good movie later on. And the book he wrote in 2017, 2018 was Machines Like Me. And it's like you would buy a robot like you buy an iPhone, and beautiful packaging, etc. And it's the story of what happens in a home with a robot coming up. It's science fiction, but it's also worth using the power of writers to discover what's happening.
Edouard, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure being with you. Thank you for hosting me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you soon for next talk with The Bridge.